Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Seth Kishonen with BMC Software, Senior Account Manager. Some of you may know me, probably had some interactions with you over the years. And we're going to be taking a look at Track-It's multi-tenancy capabilities today, how Track-It can serve multiple parts of the business with customizations and workflows. And our good friends at RJR Innovations are going to be leading us through that today. We've been working with RJR for, gosh, as long as I can remember, well over 10 years, on my end here. So they're very experienced and knowledgeable in all things Track-It and our Footprints product as well. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to, I think, Sam. Are you going to be jumping in here?
Sounds good. Thanks, Seth.
All right.
Good morning, good afternoon. Again, my name is Sam Malouf. I'm the Senior Account Executive at RJR. Like Seth mentioned, we've been doing this for quite some time. We're a BMC partner since 2004. We're actually up north in Canada, in Ottawa, Canada, the capital, and we've been doing BMC Track-It migration, IT service management, client management, as well as multi-tenancy for quite some time, but we also take care of the footprint side and other solutions from BMC. We do the training, A to Z implementation. If you're coming on board as a new customer or you're actually migrating or upgrading to the latest version, we take care of that for you. We also do L1 support. We have our own in-house L1 support. We're bilingual thanks to the French market here in Canada. And, we've been doing this for quite some time. We are on day 3 of the webinar. We've already done, I believe Tuesday, we did the migration from old Track-It 11 to the latest version. Yesterday, we did ITAM, client management, and what client management is all about with patching and security. And today we are doing multi-tenancy. We'll let Ron Sorrell, our senior consultant, will basically go ahead and do the presentation for us as well as the demo. So without further ado, I'll hand over things to Ron, and he'll go ahead and start the demo. So Ron, you can share your screen, sir.
Great, thank you. So I'll just speak quickly about what the multi-tenancy is about. So one of the strengths that Track-It has is the ability to segregate your data based upon your function. So facilities may not want to share their data of HR, more likely HR may not want to share their type of tickets with IT, and finance may want to have their own separate space. And you may have another space that has to see everything. So we can do that type of segregation, which works in both viewing tickets, but also in reporting mechanisms. We can also have part of this workflow of multi-tenancies. Every group can have their own ticket views, their own queries. So you have that because they may have different needs, different requirements. So therefore you can customize that to a per group. And there's also a self-service multi-tenancy so that you can set this up basically by department location that people can see by default just their own tickets, or at some type of manager level or oversee supervisor level, they can see all tickets for their location, or they can all see tickets for all their departments, or a combination of both. You can decide who gets that access. So I'm going to start my screen share now. Perfect. So one of the first tools that the product comes with, which I'm going to start with, is called the data segregation tool. So many of you had already seen most of this stuff. If you had installed the new Track-It, you're going to see a lot of different utilities and tools here. Some are self-explanatory, but the one in question that we're talking about today is database segregation utility. Now I'm going to start this up. It's a very basic login tree. Now I'm going to, on purpose, cause a message, an error warning here on purpose, because everybody's going to do this. And if they don't give you a heads up warning ahead of time, when you start playing with this, you're going to wonder something serious is wrong or not sure how to fix it. So I'm going to put in my password and I'm going to get this message. It's telling me that there's still people logged into the system. This utility does require exclusive access to the system. You can't make these changes. There's anybody currently logged in. So that means you have to stop the Track-It services, including there's job and mail And if I go on my services side, and we have a Track-It job service, which I've stopped, Track-It mail, which I've stopped, but the core of the people who log in is still run by a World Wide Web publishing service. So that service has to also be restarted or just stopped. This tool doesn't require this, but I can restart web. Now, I want to do things. Since I just stopped it, this tool likes to say anything that's 90 seconds old, because one of the things that this tool does is checks in every minute to say, I'm here. So it knows things are operating. And this tool tries to do that. But I'm going to take a shortcut. I'm going to go into my SQL because I don't think you guys want to have a silence for 90 seconds. And I'm just going to, now here's what the process looks like. Here's the process table, and here's the different things are running. And you can quickly see there's only one left because I stopped job mail, and there's still this process. And the last time it checked in was at 9 minutes after. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat because I'm not going to wait 90 seconds. I'm going to pause. I'm just going to delete this. Not normally recommend you do this, but in a pinch, you might have to do that for whatever reason. Now, if I go back here and do my connect, I'm in. So what this starts with is that this is from facilities perspective at the moment. If I hit the down arrow, I can see all the groups. So it could be 1 group, 5 groups, 50 groups, whatever your setup is. And groups, just by the way, groups are your sort of hierarchy or what people do for their job. Facilities, finance, help desk, tier 1, tier 2, whatever sort of almost some ways describes your organizational hierarchy. Sometimes it can be like a ticket queue, but generally I like to be more like, what is your job? And from this perspective, facilities is allowed, we start with tickets, allowed to see any tickets in finance, help desk, HR, and system administrator. I don't want them to see HR. So I'm going to remove a group from ticket and say, you know what? I can do more than one group. I can take finance away. And facilities, I don't even see help desk. I'm going to take all 3 away. And now they can only see system administration tickets and their own. They can always see their own. That's why they're not in the list. If I jump to now HR, I don't want them back to tickets. And I remove group. I can say, well, I don't want to see any of those tickets. Nobody. And you can go there for each group and go through the process. So for help desk, they definitely shouldn't see anybody's stuff. So I'm going to go back to tickets. Move group. I'll let them see system administration stuff. And that's how it's set up. And you can do this for different ticket notes. Generally, I don't touch notes because if you can't see his ticket, it's really difficult to get to the note. So I don't usually bother with that one. But you may have knowledge packages or solutions. You might want to segregate them to keep it simpler. You might not do that because of data sensitivity. You might just do that just to keep things cleaner between groups. Assignments that are attached to your tickets. So you can do the same thing. And notes. So then now, one thing, keep a note. You may have a habit just closing this window this way. If you do that, that's going to cause you a temporary problem, which means you can come call support because you're going to be coming back here and have to do this. Oops, I can't spell select right. Because you're going to leave something here running. So you really want to use the log out disconnect button. So that's gone. Because otherwise, if I try to log into the web, it's going to say there's administrative functions going on. So try to remember to disconnect. Now you can close the window, but you want to disconnect first. Now I can close it. Right, so let's see what that looks like. What's the outcome from that is. Go to my start menu. We'll go to Track-It login. Now this person is in multiple groups, but I'm going to log in as finance. Now, because I'm loading it the first time, because we restarted metadata, there's always a little bit longer for the first person to connect. It's loading a bunch of data and code. Now, after that, it's going to be quicker for anybody logging in. It's just the first login for each group. The overall first login takes a little bit of while, and then each group first login takes a little bit extra time, but after that, it runs in fairly quick. So I log in, there's my dashboard. And I go to my help desk. I go to all tickets. I'm just going to go to all tickets here. And there's a total of 26 tickets. That's what we have. Now, I'm going to log out and come back in. There's a different group. And go to HR, which we fairly restricted. Again, first time I logged in, so I get the nice little welcome window. I'm going to close that. Different, even here right off the bat, there's less tickets showing up here. But I'll go to help desk again. I'm going to all tickets. One, because there's only one current ticket that's in HR. I can't see tickets from anywhere else. And if I go to reports, run a report, that's all I get. The reports are built upon your group view, whatever you logged in as. So you and I'm in HR, I run the exact same report as you do. When you log in as help desk, run the exact same report. We will get different data based upon what we're allowed to see. So it's fairly simple to set up actually in many ways. Now, as part of this, to go along with this, HR screens can be actually a lot different than IT screens, possibly different data. And it's very easy to set that up. So if I go my configuration process, form definitions, I go form customization. Now, everybody, but if I go default, these are all default forms. You cannot modify default form. You must make a new one. So no matter how bad you might make a mistake or get something screwed up, you always know you go back to original default form, use as a guideline. So I'm going to do new. Just going to say what I want to start with. I'll start with tickets. I have to start with the default one because that's all that exists right now. This is HR tickets. Put a description if I want to, but I won't. And I don't know if you've seen this in the previous version or previous any kind of demos. This is all drop and drag. Now it's loaded the form for the first time. So it's a little, again, there's that little pause. Once we make these changes, they're very quick, like they're enabled instantly. There's no publishing, there's no waiting, there's no setup. So I'm going to, for whatever reason, I'm just going to, we don't work with service agreements. So I'm going to take that off. Gone. Don't need that. Don't need service information. And for whatever reason, I'm just gonna put this on, just put something on here. Category full path. And I save that. So we go back to HR. Now, right now, HR is still using default, but I want him to use the HR form. And then I do similar stuff for facilities and so on. I save that. And the very next time they open up a ticket, and there's only that one. Again, now, first time loading this form for anybody. So, and there's my change. Not the prettiest looking form in the world, but you can see the change is fairly instant. So as soon as you make that form change, and the next time people hit load that form, they'll get the change. So everybody can have their own look and feel form. So whatever is important to them, or take off what's not important to them. Now, and some of the things too is sort of minor points to the multi-workflow and so on. Email configurations, you can have more than one mailbox. So for whatever reason, you might have an inflow for HR that you want to track with a certain address, which helps you filter your business rules. You might have one just for IT, one for facilities. So you can watch multiple inboxes, and based on that two address that's there, you could filter in the business rules to say how those tickets should be handled. Now, in theory, though, you could have 5 mailboxes all getting the emails copied to one big mailbox. And because you're doing an exchange copy, it can also have a 2 address that's different. So there's different ways to do it, but depending on, it's all sometimes based on what you're doing now. If you're starting from scratch, and you do going to have multiple groups with multiple requirements, I would suggest watching multiple mailboxes. Just makes it easier to troubleshoot, because if something's not working for one, you could always disable just that one mailbox without affecting everybody else. Now, the second part of the segregation side is from the self-service perspective. So I'm going to log in for self-service. And Joe user. Very original name. So here we go. I'm repeating myself, but it's the first time self-service has been accessed since a restart. So again, but you know, it will come up pretty quick. If I log out and log back in, it'll be almost instantaneous. Now I'm gonna look at my tickets. By default, these are tickets logged by me, but I've given Joe a couple of extra options because I've deemed him to be as a supervisor manager, and he gets these extra options here. All tickets logged for my department. So at the bottom, if you can see this, there's 6 tickets down here. For my department, now we see 7 because this one is his department, but not him, Jeffrey Rush, in the department that he is in, which is accounting. I can also just go for location, and I get a different one, David Grohl, because David Grohl is in his location of Florida. You know, I know it's Florida just by memory. If I click on a ticket, you can see that information. Location not here, but they didn't put location on here. But this David Grohl, he's in account administration, so you can segregate tickets. But by default, though, typically by default, unless you go do it, when I go to my tickets, this drop down arrow is not available. They only get is this. But you can say, or only do by department, because you may not use locations, or you just might not want to share it, or you can just by location. And the place to do that is fairly simple to set up. If I go to my configuration and I go to my requesters, and I look at, let's say Joe, it's just here in the top right hand corner. So by default, everybody's requester. Now, for you who were on yesterday's migration webinar and we did all the data, I'm just giving you a heads up. You may find that access level is blank. You can fix that through a back end, but let you know that if it, for some reason, if depending how the data comes in, maybe you forgot them in your AD synchronization, you forgot to map that field or something, a blank value there is requester. So just keep that in mind. And if I want to use Windows authentication, change your password and so on. So that's how you set it up. So by default, this is what people have. So if I go to somebody else, I'm not saving anything there. And I go to like Warren. Oh, yeah, department. Wow. Okay. Warren has more power than I thought he did. And he has location. So a little example of everything. And let's see what David Grohl has. He's like he's the low end of the totem pole. So he's got one worker and 3 managers. That's, you know, that's a heavy duty system. So that's what it looks like. Now, for the most part, that is all about what segregation and filtering records is all about. There's really not much more to it than that. So if anybody has any questions or concerns, and you can either type them in or we can allow you to ask them in person or by voice. It's up to you. But at this point, I'm finished with the main part of the presentation, unless someone else has a question that needs to see something more.
Hey, Ron, this is Seth with BMC. Did you touch on the business rules and how they could apply to different groups and send out different things?
Well, yeah, in a sense, business rules can do, that's a good point. Business rules can be, the business rules themselves can be used to work on any type of condition or data, whether it be group, whether it's location, whether it be user, whether it be subject or category. The business rules themselves are wide open to basically work on any criteria that makes sense for your groups or groups. So this is typically just what a business rule looks like. And you can make any level of definitions, conditions that you want, and do actions accordingly to whatever the conditions are. And the conditions can be based on any field, not just group. So this goes beyond just group. You can base condition on any field that has data in it. As you can scroll down here, you can see there's a whole list of every field in the system. And, you know, decides all the different type of logic parameters, equals, not equals, different things. So, and then of course the action business rules, you decide what you want to do, send notification out, update records, create records, link to other records, and so on. So you have a lot of flexibility business rules. The key is conditions, and you can, what do I do when it's created? Do I do when it's updated? And you're not just stuck to tickets. It could be on multiple modules, including new email received. New email comes from company HR. New email comes from HR at RJR, or if it comes from facilities at RJR, or whatever you want to decide, that can redirect, as I mentioned earlier about business rules, redirect an action. So your action from HR is to create a ticket and assign it to the HR group as part of the ticket received. And we can parse out, you know, data from the emails and so on. You got a lot of flexibility to grab data from rules.
And Ron, we got a question in the chat regarding different work hours for different departments.
The work hours are more geared toward SLAs, groups, and staff and
Business
business
rules,
rules.
yeah.
So yes, you can, because you could make up distinct business rules for departments and have different rules for different departments and apply that business rule with a different work schedule. So it's, you know, and it's hard to sort of comment too much, because sometimes what you think you may need, maybe we can do a different way. But basically, when we look at the schedule, we can say the correct conditions for this rule involve the laboratory department, and the time zone for them is, or work schedule, or time zone and or work schedule. In this case, I only got 40-hour week, but you can have as many work schedules with different holidays and stuff, and do that per, like I said, group, staff, SLA, or business rules. And an example I see there, yes, help desk be 24/7 and no problem, and billing. So you'd have to do by business rules for that, but that would be also by the SLAs by priority. So priorities can have a work schedule. So maybe you have a certain priority that's only used by billing people. And then you have for tickets for help desk, they have their own set of priorities. So that's another way to do as well, because priorities, which is like SLAs, also have a work schedule. In fact, I can just go quickly to SLAs. Are sort of their own business rule. They have their own settings, priority. Oops, not
And
priority.
technicians can have their own schedule.
Correct. I said
Too.
staff. I meant technicians.
Yeah,
I'm using old
I don't think
terminology.
a group can, but a technician could,
You're
and
correct.
then
Group.
the
Yes.
technicians belong to the
Correct.
group.
Yes. Technician, yeah, by group. So here's an SLA. When you talk about, someone mentioned complex SLAs, again, we can have certain priorities that have a certain work schedule, and that's what they have. So help desk have their set of priorities. Billing may have their own set of priorities, and they have defined time zone and work schedule.
Almost always more than one way to do something.
Correct. There's lots of options. It's always what's most efficient and what's less likely to paint you into a corner. Always want flexibility. My whole thing with business rules, if you want to be able to modify the data, not the rules, so you kind of set this up to be as flexible as possible so that you can make changes to your system without actually modifying the rules. Priorities. So let's bring a quick priority up. So there's where you set your priority work schedules. And you see here, you can actually make your assigned person schedule take precedent over the work schedule of the priority. So you could have a generic priority like this, but depending what work the technician gets it, because maybe a technician's in Europe versus North America, and you only want to have one priority, critical one, because it makes it easier, because you don't want critical one in North America, critical one in Europe, critical. You just say, you know what? Let the technician look person's work schedule override. So I only have that one priority critical, and the right work schedule go in based upon who that technician is. Okay, well, I hope I answered everybody's questions. And if you have any more additional questions, or you need a deeper dive, or want to talk about more examples, we're happy to work this with you, either with Seth or Sam or Jad, and through myself. We're more than happy to spend additional time one-on-one to go through how this tool, or what the impact and ramifications would be if you upgrade.
Perfect. Thank you, Ron. Thanks, Seth. We'll go ahead and send an email to all the attendees with the webinar link, so that way you guys can have that also. Feel free to reach out to me or Jad at info@rjrinnovations.com. And again, thanks everybody for attending this, and have yourself a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.